going to be sketching for this class? Mickey Mouse, yeah, my boss, the big cheese. Pun intended. All right, so we're going to get started on him. And as you notice, you're picking up your tools here, that we are missing a feature that you normally see on pencils. We're missing our erasers. Now, erasers are mostly used for writing. We do use them in some instances when we draw, but we're going to be doing what's called a rough sketch. These are the very basic sketches that artists draw. You're going to be building your characters up from the ground up using a lot of light, flowy lines. And then the more we start adding in those lines, the ones we want to keep will darken in, and eventually you'll start to notice the ones we don't want to keep will fade away. So that's what's cool about that. That takes the place of the eraser. So our very first shape we're going to be starting off with for Mickey is going to be a circle. All of our characters start off with a very basic geometric shape. But we want a very nice, light, flowy motion here, all right? Let's see those arms going. We're going to do a nice full arm motion here. Exactly. So let's get started with that circle. Right in the center. Make sure you leave a little bit of room for his ears. He does have some very large ears. But you'll notice as I'm just drawing out the circle here, I'm keeping it extremely light. I'm really just carving out the shape here by using a lot of lines. I'm just making as many as I possibly can. That way when I go back, I can darken in my favorite line. And I have a ton to choose from. So now that we have that circle in place, we're going to be adding in some construction lines. And these are going to help us put down some of the facial features for Mickey. So the very first construction line we're going to be placing down is going to go vertically up and down our circle here. It's going to cut it into 2 equal parts. Now keep these very, very light. These are just guidelines. And don't worry if your circle is not perfect. We're not looking for perfection. Honestly, as long as we get a shape that looks like a circle on the page, that's the best thing, all right? So our next line that we're going to be placing is going to go the opposite direction from left to right. We're going to cut our circle into 4 equal parts. Now the key is to make sure these lines are very light, remember folks. As you can see, you can almost barely see that one that's going on from left to right there. So that's pretty much the foundation for Mickey. Now we can get started with some of the features here. And the very first one we're going to start off with is going to be his nose. Now it's much like the circle we just created, only we're going to squish it down a little bit and make it into an oval. And we're going to do that right underneath this horizontal construction line. And you can use the vertical one here as a guideline to where you want to place it. I'm just going to lightly carve out this nice oval shape here at the top, or an arch, just to kind of start off my oval. And then as I get into place, I'll go below and then start carving out the bottom part of that oval. Makes it a little bit easier if you find it's intimidating to just make a complete oval. So once I have that in place, I am going to keep this feature. So I'm going to go back and darken my favorite line, all right? So find your favorite line on that oval and outline it. And outline it as nice and dark as possible so you can see it. It doesn't fade away in the process. So once we have that in place, we're going to then add in what is called a snout line. Now, a lot of our characters who have these long noses or muzzles will have these lines just to kind of show a little bit of dimension or some perspective to the nose, that it's actually pulling a little bit further away from the rest of the face. So to do that, we're going to add the same exact shape that we started off with for this oval here. We're just going to mimic that shape right above it. Now, leaving a little bit of space in between just to show that it is sitting a little bit slightly above here, just to give that perspective. But I'm not making it very long, I'm just keeping it right towards the ends of my oval here. Might be going past just a little bit. Now, for his smile, we're going to just turn that arch the opposite direction and make a big stretched out letter U right below our nose. So I'm going to kind of use our vertical line here as a guideline to where I kind of want to start that. And about halfway between the nose and the bottom of my circle is kind of where I want to place my smile. So you can do this in one complete motion if you like. If it's easier for you, you can do it in 2 parts. But really, I'm just kind of going over and over this line. I'm not trying to get like a perfect smile here. That's why we call it a rough sketch. Everything's very rough. We're using a lot of lines. It's not perfect. So once we have that stretched out letter U in place, we're going to open up his smile just a little bit. But before we do, I want to add in some smile lines. So this is really just going to top off his smile. You notice when you are smiling nice and big, your cheeks push up and you have the creases in the inside of your mouth? Mickey's got those too. So we're going to add those by putting in 2 little rainbow shapes at the very, very top of our smile. Just like that. Now, when we open up that smile nice and big, we're just going to do a stretched out letter U that's going to sit right below. Now, it's going to be probably about the width of the nose here. So on either side, I'm going to bring out 2 lines, and I'm kind of just stretching them out. So notice I'm just bringing them out at a curve a little bit, not just straight up and down. They have a little bit of a curve to them. just to really show the effect that it's actually curving here. And then I'm closing it off with a nice stretched out letter U. So with that in place, we want to add a little bit of some dimension here to the rest of his mouth to show that it's kind of sitting a little bit off from his the rest of his face. So to do that, we're going to add in the same shape we did for the bottom of his smile here. We're going to just mimic that same curve. So right below, I'm going to do another stretched out letter U. And from either side, I'm just going to pull that line again and really bring out this U here. And those lines are going to go right back into our circle. So now, when we have this lip here, it's just kind of sitting in mid-air, we want to kind of connect it to the rest of his face. And remember, we have those smile lines, but we don't have the cheeks that they're pushing up on. So let's go ahead and add those cheeks in next. And to do that, we're just going to add in 2 large C-shaped curves that are going to sit right on top of both of those smile lines. So on either side, I'm kind of using my horizontal guideline here, and I'm just going to kind of draw in those C-shapes right on that line. And they're kind of sitting back into my circle. Because when we go back, we're just going to find our favorite line from that circle and connect those cheeks into that bottom lip. So you notice I'm just bringing that line right back in. Now, with that mouth nice and open, we're kind of missing something that sits on the inside, right? We're missing his tongue. And his tongue is really simple. It's just 2 more arches that sit right in the inside of his mouth, almost like 2 little hills sitting right next to each other. So I can even use that line that we drew, our vertical construction line, as a guideline to where I want that point to sit. So I'm going to draw 1 hill with that point sitting right there, and then I'll do 1 right next to it. We're keeping it kind of small to make him look really cute. So that just about does it for the bottom half of Mickey's face. How's everyone doing at this point? Pretty good, yeah? Are we starting to see him just a little bit? Yeah. Sort of, kind of? All right, let's see some thumbs up on who is really confident about their drawing right now. Anybody? Yeah? Ooh, I guess not, huh? All right, that's okay. You know, we are halfway. Very good. I'm very happy to see that you will love your drawing there. So yeah, we are halfway done, so don't worry, we still have tons left to do. And I know we, as artists, we tend to get really hard on ourselves, right? But don't. It's all about having fun. And that's my next question. Is everyone having fun? Yeah. There you go. Something we can all agree on, and that's good to hear. So we'll get started on the next part of his face here. And we can actually use his snout line here as a guideline to where we want to put that next feature, and that's going to be his eyes. And we're just going to do 2 ovals that are going to sit right on top of that snout line. So right above here, I'm just going to bring in a curved line. And then to close off that curved line to kind of give it that oval shape, I'm just going to arch it off at the top and then bring down another curved line right next to it. So it almost looks like we have this surfboard shape sticking out of what looks like sand. And we're going to add in another one right next to it here. And we're making the same exact height. Try and make them the same exact width too, or how wide the other one is. You want to have them both as equal as possible. But everybody's drawing is different. Sometimes they might be a little skinnier, a little bit bigger, and that is completely okay. As long as we have that basic shape, you are good to go. And right now, those eyes are kind of just sitting in midair, and we want to close them off just a little bit. And you know, Mickey has that nice character mask that we all know him for, right? It's that nice curved letter M that sits right on his face. You can see my stuffed Mickey right over there has it. So we're going to add that in next. And right in between both of those eyes, we're going to start off with what looks like a curved letter V. That's how we're going to get that archway, right in between those eyes. And you can use this line once again. We're going to go back to that line, and I'm going to bring out 2 curved lines coming on from either side here, giving that nice curved letter V. And so to make this into that curved letter M that he has, we're just going to bring those lines right back down into those cheeks. So if you kind of look at the eyes in comparison to that arch right here, it's really just mimicking the same shape. We're just widening it up just a little bit. So I'm going on the other side and doing the exact same thing, bringing both of those lines right back into those cheeks here. And at this point, since we're right by that archway, we can actually find our favorite line from his circle that we originally created for his head, and we're going to darken those in too on the sides. Now, you could just go and darken in whichever line you feel fits your Mickey best. Sometimes if you may have gone a little too wide or a little too small, this is your chance to correct it. Now I just wanted to find a line that sits a little bit closer to that archway so his cheeks kind of poke out a little bit on the sides. Kind of makes him look cuter. I think I'm going to darken in that middle spot right in between those two arches as well. So we're starting to see him a little bit, right? But he kind of looks a little scared, almost like he got off of Tower of Terror. Now his eyes are just completely white. Well, we don't want that. We want to make him look really happy and awake. So we're going to add in some pupils next. And those pupils are going to be the exact same shape that we have for those ovals on those eyes. And if you want, actually, you don't even have to do ovals. You can get really creative. You can put hearts in there. You can put dollar signs. It's really up to you. This is your Mickey. But as for me, I'm going to put those ovals sitting right on the bottom here. I'm going to have them looking right at you guys. And I'm keeping them really light too, because I want to go back and then darken in my favorite line. But first I want to make sure that these guys are going to be even here. So I'm really just carving out those oval shapes. And then right where I have them, I'm going to darken them in. So I'm just darkening in my favorite line. And also, if you want to give him a little bit of a highlight to really show that light source coming from his eyes, you can add in a little circle or a smaller oval on the inside. And then when you go back and darken in his eyes, you start to see that light source. Gives him a cute look, a nice source of sunlight or light or wherever he is. You can really see it in those eyes, in the spotlight, since he's always in the movies and cartoons. So we're starting to see him now, aren't we? Yeah? Starting to look like Mickey? Okay, so I think our last feature for Mickey is going to be those ears. Now the ears are going to be the same exact shape that we created for his face. There's going to be two smaller circles that are going to sit on either side of his head. And if you look at his face to kind of gauge how big we want to make those ears, just kind of assume that Mickey's face is a quarter, and we're going to put 2 dimes sticking on either side of his head, all right? Or you can think about it this way, about half the size of his face is how big we want to make those ears on either side. Now, we're going to place these at a 45-degree angle here. So if you want to bring out 2 more guidelines coming right out of his nose here, making a big stretched out letter V, you'll notice that those lines are going to be kind of placed right in this area here. And that's kind of somewhat of a 45-degree angle we have here for him. And now with those guidelines in place, we can then start sketching out those ears. Now you want to keep them extremely light. Like I said, if maybe you made them too big, too small, the best way to correct that is if you keep it extremely light. If you do it dark, then you won't have anything to go back on. So as I'm carving out these ears here, I'm remembering that these are going to be 2 dimes, or about half the size of his head. And if you make the guidelines or you carve out his ears a little too big, just find a smaller line in the inside and darken that one in. Sometimes I make his ears where one is bigger than the other. We always make mistakes. That's the best part about drawing. It's never perfect. So once we have those ears in place, you can go back and find your favorite line and then you can darken it in. Now, does anybody want to do a little Mickey Mouse trivia? Who can tell me what Mickey's first cartoon was? Ah, see, now everybody likes to think that Steamboat Willie was the very first cartoon. However, it's not. The first cartoon was called Plain Crazy. Now the reason why that they put so much significance on Steamboat Willie, and they actually made that his birthday too, the year that that cartoon came out, is because it's the first cartoon that had sound that went with the cartoon. Plain Crazy actually was completely silent. And they were so excited about adding sound to a cartoon that they waited until Steamboat Willie came out to debut that as his birthday. So his birthday was in 1928, in May. And also, another fun fact is that Mickey's original name wasn't Mickey. Can anyone tell me what his original name was supposed to be?
Mortimer Mouse.
Mortimer Mouse, yeah. We actually named another character after that name, his cousin. So I'm darkening in these ears here, and at this point, if you want to go back and darken in any other lines on your Mickey, feel free to do so. If you want to add some shading, you're more than welcome to do so as well. And a little trick too, if you are going to be shading in some larger parts of his face here, you want to use the side of your pencil because that actually takes less time to shade using that side, and you get a nice even tone all the way across. And at this point, really our last step for our class today, as honorary artists, is you want to sign your name. So find a blank spot next to Mickey Mouse and sign your name. And there you have it, your very own portrait of my boss, the mouse himself.